Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
So the other day, I was talking to someone, not at this job, at the other job, the side gig, my admissions coach role at IPEC, the school you and I both trained at. And I was trying to describe to her, because she was very new to the whole idea of coaching. I was trying to describe to her what good coaching is all about. And I came up with...
So many things you could have gone into.
I came up with a good visual that I didn't really elaborate on with her because she didn't know me well enough for me to go this weird with her this quickly. But what I started mulling on was I had this visual of you're swimming in a big body of water, a lake or an ocean, and you're trying to get to some distant shore, and you can kind of see it. You might not know what's on there, but the shore is in the analogies world, I think it's fulfillment, it's satisfaction, it's getting what you want. Even if you don't know what it is, you go and get to that island and you're going to be like, oh, look, here's a banana tree. I did want that. And, here's some monkeys. I really do like monkeys, I think. But the water is brown and there's some rusted ass bicycles floating in it. And there's an old moldy couch.
Bicycles?
Because it's polluted.
Oh, no.
The water is polluted, okay?
Okay.
And you can't swim in it because you can't see where you're going. And you might get tetanus in this water.
I'm about to say.
And some other things too. And so it's before you get to that island, you got to clean up this water situation that we've got going on here. You can't swim with rusty bicycles.
No.
You can't float on a moldy couch like you're some low rent Rose Dawson. Well, I'm sorry, Rose DeWitt Bukater first, then she became Rose Dawson. Yes, Titanic is one of my favorite films, obviously. You need to clean up the water you're swimming in before you try to go anywhere else. And that is what people are trying to do. They're trying to ignore their polluted ass body of water and just, climb over rusty crap to try to get where they want to go. It doesn't work like that.
Can I add to your analogy?
Go ahead.
So, yes, in coaching, we're going to help you clean up that nasty water.
Yeah, we got to clean that up first.
And I also feel like we're going to bring a speedboat instead of you having to swim every inch of the way to this far off distant shore, which is exhausting.
There's probably some grindylows in there that are trying to grab you by the ankles and take you to your brown, watery demise.
No. So I'm just thinking that's a lot of swimming to do, and that sounds exhausting. And
it's gross too. You might die before you get there because you're so sick from the tetanus and the other bacteria.
I am glad you didn't go into this with this woman because it quickly goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Grindylows and rusty bicycles. She'd be like, who is this woman?
And I'm making it sound very dramatic, but everyone has some of that going on. It might, yours...
Sometimes it is dramatic.
Yours might not be as gross as someone else's body of water, but you've got grossness. There's a Band-Aid floating in your pool, okay? I'm telling you. And some hair. And, you can't... It's hard to want to swim in that to get where you want to go, right? You might be just avoiding obstacles in the body of water, just reacting to, oh, I can't touch that. Oh, God, I can't touch that. And you're not getting anywhere. You're just slowly exhausting yourself until you drown.
Yeah. Wow. That's very
whatever.
dramatic.
Again, I used drama to make the point, not because this is actually indicative of real life.
No one's drown here.
But you might feel like you're treading water. You might feel tired. You might feel burnout. You kind of might feel like you're drowning in overwhelm and in, uncertainty and confusion. And that wouldn't be surprising because you're probably treading gross water right now. A lot of us are treading gross water right now. 2020 is like a gross ocean, and we're like in a weird, gross tidal pool of the gross ocean.
Oh,
know what I
God,
mean?
yes.
Like I don't care who you are. 2020 has not been
It brought
great.
in a weird current of some extra gross stuff this year, that's for sure. Yeah, so, okay, that's a good analogy for coaching. We come in and we're like, all right, let's get in there and we're going to help you pull out the old bicycles and throw away the gross Band-Aids and clean this water up.
Yeah.
And then also, are you tired of swimming? Maybe let's get in this boat. And we're still going to have a journey
Or
to get
I
to
just
the shore.
had an even better idea, because this is kind of how you get to the shore. You don't get there usually by swimming up to it. Usually what happens is you got to do a submerge, and you got to get that scuba tank on, and you got to find a cave-like entrance underneath that then takes you up and into the island. Know what I'm saying? You got to go deep and down to get back up. That's kind of how personal development works. Can you do that in gross-ass water with rusty bicycles? No, you can't do that.
You sure don't want to.
You definitely don't. You can't see where you're going.
No.
If the water is crystal clear or clear enough, you can make that dive and you can come back up the other side into the heart of the island, which is rich with fruit and monkeys.
Okay, so choose your version of this analogy here. Boats or scuba gear or monkeys or banditries. But it all comes down to the same thing, which is if you're exhausted treading water and you can't even see where you're going and you have no idea if this is getting you anywhere, that's what coaching is here to help you do.
Yeah, I'm a certified internal scuba instructor. I don't know how to scuba, nor will I ever try in my physical life, but in my emotional life, I am a certified scuba instructor.
Yeah, I'm cool with emotional scuba diving.
Yeah.
Real scuba diving is very scary sounding.
I'm also a very competent boat driver as well. Like I can do a lot of inner water sports and
zero outer water sports.
None. Absolutely. I mean, I can swim. That's about it. But yeah, so all of that is to say we're coming back with coaching.
What a way to introduce it.
I just had a very strong visual, and I felt compelled to share it because I think that the people who listen to this podcast appreciate a good visual.
I think, if they stuck with us this long, because we are forever using metaphors and often mixing our metaphors.
And referencing Harry Potter and Titanic in the same analogy.
Sounds about right.
And monkeys, just to throw them in there.
Why not?
Yeah, so we're opening up enrollment on Tuesday. This coming Tuesday, the 6th, for coaching enrollment. We do this 3 times a year, and we used to just take on clients whenever. We decided it made more sense and it was better for our schedules and just our planning purposes to take them on in waves 3 times a year.
And in all honesty, we think it's better for you too, because deadlines are motivating.
Yeah, like I don't care what you decide to do, if you want to join us or not. But at least you have to decide.
Yep.
Like you kind of have to decide. Now, there is a wait list. So if you're listening to this episode a month from now and it's long gone, just add your name to the wait list and we can let you know what our availability looks like and what the timeline might be. There's likely a chance that we would have a space open up before the next time we did coaching enrollment. So there's always value in adding your name to the wait list. But this time, coaching enrollment will be open between October, I don't know what month we're in, October 6th and October 16th. So that 10 days between that Tuesday and that following Friday. And, filling out a form, which you can find either in the show notes or you can go to clarityonfire.com and the Work With Us tab has our one-on-one coaching page. You can fill out a form on that page. It's not like hey, I am 100% into working with you. I'm absolutely committed. I'm very serious about this and I want to have a conversation with you to make sure this is a good fit. But I'm not wasting your or my time, with I don't know, maybe but I don't no, you got to be kind of serious enough to have a conversation.
If you're in the stage, then you might just be a waitlist person, or you might want to,
or just don't even bother.
You might even want to wait until next time we do enrollment where you might be a little bit more clear. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
We're only taking on about 15 people.
Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot because
our schedules are limited.
Yes.
Currently they're more limited.
I need to preserve my sanity so that when I coach you, I'm good at it.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
If I coach too many people, I become bad at coaching all of them. So I can't have that.
No.
So, okay, check out the show notes or go to the site and go to the Work With Us tab if you'd rather. And we're excited to talk
This is
to
your
some
heads
of you.
up, right? The enrollment's not opening officially until
That's true.
Tuesday.
That's
6th.
true. But check it out and prepare and know what we have to offer. You can do either 6 months or 2 months. We can talk more over the phone if you want about the difference between those two. But 6 is kind of the full experience and 2 is sort of it's a smaller experience. Still valuable.
Yes.
But not the full experience. You get more bang for your buck, absolutely, if you do the full experience. So, okay, we'll be back on Tuesday with more about that. I hope that you enjoyed this crazy analogy, but I just felt very compelled to share it. Now we're 10 minutes into this podcast and we haven't even episode. And we haven't, whatever. And we haven't started yet. But okay, so we're back with
a new Dear Krachel. 3 questions we're getting into.
And the first is about our no expectations challenge. So if you haven't heard that, go back 2 weeks, listen to the side chat we did about having no more expectations for 2020. We've been getting a lot of people commenting on this.
Yep.
I've
been hearing
offline,
I've been hearing it's coming at the right time for a lot of people where they're just like, I'm already thinking along these lines, or I've been feeling this kind of urge to get into coast mode. I know. But I wasn't sure, but now I have permission. I'm hearing a lot of that. So please go listen to that.
I have an update about that before we start.
Great.
I did make vegan muffins. 2 rounds of them, actually.
Made very good vegan muffins. And I have been the taste tester.
You haven't tried the next round of them. That's later today. You're going to try I made some, I kind of freestyled. I do enjoy freestyling recipes. It makes me feel more accomplished when I don't follow the recipe. I'm like,
I don't understand it at all, but I'm very impressed.
I have a recipe and then I'm like, no, I can change that and make it more what I want. So I made pumpkin cranberry muffins, which I freestyled.
You guys, I'm looking forward to this. I'll let you know how it goes.
I also bought some apple butter for them.
Ugh, come on.
And I've been making soup. So I'm doing well. I'm doing well on my muffin making front. But I really don't have any more goals. Now that I've made muffins, I'm like, I'm done for the year.
Now you really can coast.
Yeah.
For the end of the year.
Anyway, okay. You want to read the first question?
Yes.
Okay.
Dear Krachel, I'm in for your no expectations challenge, but I'm pretty sure I'm overthinking it. There are some things in my life that I don't technically need to decide now, but I've been sitting on for a while and I kind of wish I could make a decision about them. For example, to move or not move, to look for a new job now or wait until next year, and a few other things. But is having no expectations an excuse for putting off decision making? What do you think? Thanks. And this is from Margot.
Margot, not Marco?
Yeah, I said Margot.
It sounded like you said Marco, which would have been fine.
Oh, did I?
But I think her name is Margot.
No, this is Margot.
Well, yeah. So, okay, no expectations doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything. It doesn't mean that you literally have to just sit still and absolutely do nothing and hold as still as you possibly can, or else you're not doing it right. That's not what we're suggesting.
In fact, I interpret this more as, go ahead and do things, make decisions, try things, but don't have expectations about whether that's the thing that's going to be forever, or how it turns out, or what the timeline is going to be. This is not about inaction. This is about releasing outcomes.
Well, here's the thing. What Margot is wrestling with are big things. It's moving. So you can't just be like, I guess I'll move. I understand why she doesn't feel like she can do it. It's not like, I'll make some muffins today.
Sure.
It's different than that. And same with looking for a job or trying to figure out what to do about her job. So, you can look for a job more casually than you can
that you can do.
You can look for houses online more casually, but I get the impulse to maybe not just do it because you're not sure what you should be doing. I guess I'll look for a job, or I guess I'll look for houses. So I say, back away from the decision and just say, okay, I am going to intentionally create some space. I'm not going to work on these. I'm not going to think about these for a couple weeks. You don't have to even just do it for the rest of the year. It could be for the rest of 2020. But I want to see what happens when you decide, I have no attachment to the outcome for either of these things. I have no expectations around either of them. Do I then, when I back away, do I get a nudge or an impulse? Or does the inspiration come in that's like, ooh, here's a job that I'm really interested in. Or, oh, something just happened in my house and it's making it very clear that I do want to move. Or maybe the opposite. So I feel like when you stop trying to figure it out, there might be an impulse that helps guide you one way or the other, but you're probably blocking it because you're trying, because you keep thinking about, oh, should I do this or should I do that?
Well, and think about it. When you have a decision in your mind and you are putting pressure on yourself to need to make that decision, you're constantly making a case in your head for either direction. So in your head, you're like, well, but if I move, then I could do this and I could do this. And if I don't move, then I blah, blah, blah. And so you get caught up very easily in the back and forth spiral of like, should I do this or should I do that? And it's the overanalyzing is real. When
And
you are putting the
chock full
pressure
of expectations.
on. Exactly. And if you take a step back, one of two things is going to happen. If you say, I don't need to decide this right now, you might realize I'm actually fine with where I am. I'm not feeling a strong impulse to move. I'm not feeling a strong impulse to go job search. Or you might step away from it and be like, I don't need to decide this right now. And a part of you is like, no, I really want to move. No, please pay attention to me.
Or something comes in outside of you that really spurs you on.
And there's this, and instead of forcing yourself to make a decision because you feel like you need to, or you feel like that time is closing in around you, now you're making a decision more out of feeling pulled towards something, feeling called towards something, feeling
compelled.
Yeah, motivated in a certain direction versus under the gun to make a choice. Very, very different energy of momentum.
So is having no expectations an excuse for putting off decision making? No. It's actually a good way to make decisions, but to allow those decisions to get made in an intuitive way instead of an overly analytical, logical way. Mm-hmm. That's my word on that. Okay. Question number 2. Dear Krachel, unpopular opinion alert. I really don't like children. I never have. I don't enjoy being around them, and therefore I decided not to have kids of my own. I'm very happy with that decision, but I am sick of constantly being punished for it. People constantly tell me I don't know what it's like to be busy or stressed because I don't have kids, even though I have a list of responsibilities a mile long. I always have to work the late shifts at work. I work every holiday and take on all the extra work during school breaks because, quote unquote, the others have kids. It always feels like my time and my life is less valued because I chose not to reproduce. It's so frustrating. I get it that parents have a lot on their plates, but why should I have to make up for their life choices? How do I make employers and even friends see that my life is important too and we're allowed to choose different paths in life? Happily childless.
Happily childless. Okay, the first thing I want to tell you is it is totally fine to not want kids and to not
That's not
like
an unpopular
kids.
Opinion alert on this podcast.
No, I know plenty of people who have very intentionally made the choice to not have children, and they're perfectly content with it.
I am happy that people are not forcing themselves to have kids because they should, which is something we did in earlier generations. And I think it led to a lot of unhappy people all around.
Or because we had to. We didn't have
a choice not to. Yes.
Right. So I think that's fantastic. And I'm glad you're owning that. And I don't think that's unpopular, or I don't think you should feel any weirdness about that decision.
And I also want to acknowledge that, yeah, there absolutely are societal prejudices.
Sure.
Against people with, or in favor of people with children, or people who are coupled up. Go back to my episode from, I think it was April of this year with Shani Silver, which was about being single and all of the sort of unconscious things and, kind of societal issues that we have in being single versus being coupled up. It's fascinating. I loved it. Very
related to this concept of having children or not having children.
And she chose not to have children. And she's, like we talked about that too. And ... I want to zero in on something you said. I always have to work the late shifts at work.
That was and then the next one, I work every holiday. I take on all the extra work.
I have to. Have to. No. No. You don't have to. You want to know why? Kristen and I are in our early 30s. We've been working adults for a decade. Neither of us have children. We've had jobs off and on this entire time. I mean, yes, we've had a business for 6 years, but I still have a side job right now. And I do what I want, when I want, because I have boundaries.
Yes. So what I am sensing here is the combination of other people's expectations. So other people at your office might expect you to work
very well.
Late,
it's not crazy that there are people probably, yes, expecting more of you because you don't have kids. And that's wrong.
Yes, that is wrong. And just because they expect it does not mean you have to agree. So the combination of other people's expectations and your
feeling like you have no choices.
This is tough love here. Your weak boundaries.
Yeah.
That combination is making you feel like I have to do these.
You're
things.
at the effect of this situation. It's making you feel kind of like a victim to the situation.
Yes.
And I can feel it because the resentment is pouring out of this email.
I get it.
Yeah.
It is unfair. You should not have to work more because you decided not to have children, which is irrelevant to the work that you are doing.
No, because think about how many other like responsibilities people have. Elderly parents are, I mean, seeing what my mom is doing versus what my brother. So my brother has like a 9-month-old baby, and my mom is dealing with 2 elderly parents. My mom's working a lot harder than my brother right now to care for those people. So elderly parents are often more work than kids. For example,
personal health issues.
Yes.
Home
chronic
issues.
ailments.
Yeah. There's a lot of things outside of work that people are struggling with, and none are more important or bigger than others.
Which is not to say you should come up with a laundry list of things and then be like, well, these are all the things I'm doing, and it's just as important as having kids. I'm not actually advising that you get into defensive mode.
No.
I don't think you need to explain yourself at all.
I don't even think you need to have any of those other things going on. We're just sharing that there's a lot that people are dealing with in their lives in all different arenas.
And it's all valid.
At any given time. It's all valid.
And you don't even have to have any of that to set boundaries. You can set boundaries because your time and energy is valuable and because you want to use it the way you want to use it, and you don't want to work more because other people can't.
For example, in one of my first jobs out of college, I was 23 when I started working there. A lot of people who worked there were older, who did have kids. And this was a job where sometimes there was an expectation to work evenings or weekends. It was in government proposal writing. So like, it's just whenever it's due, you got to just make it happen.
Yeah, they would do overnight crunches sometimes, right? Or like weekend long crunches. Yeah. It was insane.
I was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this.
I mean, like, it was like, I don't think you understand. It was just like part of the work culture. It was like a thing that everyone did. And Kristen was just like, nah. And she never participated in it. And she kept getting promoted.
I kept getting promoted. Everyone loved work. Like, there was no bad repercussions. Every time they asked if I was available to work on the weekend, I just was like, no.
And we're talking, she was like 25 years old. Not even, maybe 23 or 24. She had no response. She didn't even have a pet. She didn't have a plant. She had nothing to do. She didn't have a boyfriend. No. She had literally nothing. And she would just be like, no.
And it was fine. It was fine. I didn't lose my job. In fact, I kept getting promoted in my job. Nobody was like mean or rude to me. But it was a precedent that I had to set. And eventually people stopped asking.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
I just worked normal hours.
Yeah.
And that was fine. So you can do that too. I had zero right to do that, really.
Yeah.
And it was still fine.
I once worked at a law office.
Of boundaries.
And sometimes the head lawyer at the law office, like the big kahuna, would be like, hey, can you like drive this like 45 minutes away after work? I'll pay you for like to go deliver this in person. And I'd be like, no, I got stuff going on. Because like, no, what you're paying me is not worth all the time I'm going to spend like driving like 90 minutes out of my way and then going home to do that. No. I had a dog, but like my parents would take care of the dog some days. And like, it's not like that was my excuse. I would just be like, no, I have something else I have to do. Like,
just because people ask you to do things,
don't mean
even
you have
people
to say
who
yes.
are paying you.
Nope.
You don't have to say yes.
Mm-mm. So your next question is going to be, well, okay, but I feel like I can't just be like, no, I have to like have a reason. I get that you think you have to have a reason if someone asks you to do something. So you can say, no, I can't take that on. I have other commitments right now. That's it. That's all you have to say.
I'm not available that evening or that day.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's literally it. That is all you have to say. And if they pry, you can be like, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Yeah. That's very personal.
I have personal things going on that I need to work.
Yeah. And if you get fired because you don't take on extra work because you don't have kids, I'm pretty sure that's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
It is a lawsuit waiting to happen. And also, is that a place you want to stay for very long?
I mean, yeah.
Where you're being ostracized essentially or discriminated against because of your your status of
Yeah.
whether or not you have kids. Like, I don't think that's a place you're going to be happy long-term anyway.
Here's my theory about you, happily childless. You can tell me I'm wrong, but just, like relax before you wince, because this might make you wince. My theory is you feel defensive of the fact that you've decided not to have kids because you feel like you're being judged all the time for not having kids. Whether or not that's true, I'm not actually sure. I'm sure some people have judged you, and so you're hypersensitive to it. Like you've got a hair trigger around this issue. So you're looking for it everywhere. Like you are primed and you are ready and you are locked and loaded. And the first person who suggests that it's not right that you chose not to have kids is going to get their head blown off. And you know what? I get it. I get why you might be locked and loaded around that. But I think what's happening is that your hypersensitivity to this issue is making you project even more than maybe other people are expecting of you onto them. Like you're potentially assuming that there's more expectations for you than there really are. And that everything people are asking you to do is because you don't have kids.
There might be other reasons. You might just be really good at what you do.
Yeah.
And they want you to be on more projects.
Or they might just have a toxic work culture where they expect everyone to overwork.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm absolutely not denying that you have had some legit experiences in your life where you felt, judged or, like you were at the effect of some prejudice about people who choose not to have kids. I'm positive that's happened. And I think you might have a hair trigger around this and you're looking for it and you are locked and loaded and you are in defensive mode because you are tired of being judged about this. And I think you might be seeing it even more than it might actually be happening. And either way, the only solution is you get to set some boundaries that you are not at the effect of this. You don't have to do jack shit, happily childless. Okay?
This is a blanket permission slip to set some very clear boundaries and to enforce those boundaries. So you do not have to have kids to have those boundaries. Period. That's it.
No, you're a person. You have needs. You have desires. You get to have boundaries.
Yep.
That's as simple as that. All right. That was a tough love one, but we really hope that you'll update us. We really want to hear what you think about this.
We want you to have less resentment and more freedom.
Whatever you need to do to get that, which is probably setting some boundaries, go do that.
Okay. Question number 3. Dear Krachel, I'm super into personal growth. Duh, why else am I a fan of your podcast? And I have a husband who supports me in that, thankfully. I'll share how I'm feeling about things, and he usually responds in an empathetic way. And he's learned to mostly listen without trying to fix all of my problems, which is progress from where we started. But still, I'm finding myself frustrated with him because the opening up feels one-sided. He never seems to reciprocate sharing how he feels, and I don't love feeling like I'm talking and sharing and getting nothing back. And by nothing, I mean emotionally speaking. I know that he gives back to me in other ways. But is that all I can hope for from him? Is there a way to get him to open up and share with me more? I'm sad thinking about this being the status quo forever. And that is from Rose.
Oh, Rose! I mentioned Rose from Titanic earlier today.
Look at that.
It's the universe.
I don't think this is that Rose.
No, she's not real. Okay. So this is a very common problem. I see this a lot in my clients and just in general. Now, we are not here to overly generalize or to over-gender people. And there is a biological thing that is happening. There is a difference between the quote-unquote male brain and the quote-unquote female brain. Mm-hmm. Whether you identify as male or female, or you were born male or female, I actually really think that, like, if you identify as female, your brain, whether or not you were born looking like a female, if you identify as female, I bet your brain probably resembles, like, the female brain more.
This has a lot to do with whether you operate primarily from feminine energy or masculine energy.
But I think there is some, like, neuroscience around it, too.
There is. And I think the neuroscience is what leads you to be attracted to one way of being or another way of being. And we have a whole podcast that we should link to if you're interested in this topic.
Yeah.
So that's more of where we're coming from this. Not like all men are this way and all women are this way.
No. And biologically speaking, there is a difference between how men and women tend to process emotion. The way that I've heard it described from Alison Armstrong, who's a sort of an expert on these matters, is that the male brain, the way that it processes emotion, think of it like an apartment building or like a floor of an apartment complex, or maybe just an apartment in a building. Let's make it even smaller. the emotion is like the closet. Like that's the size in comparison to the whole apartment. It's just like the closet in this apartment.
And
it's
they can go into other rooms and it's not even really a factor.
They can shut that closet and compartmentalize it. Whereas women, it's like, it's an entire loft apartment and the entire thing is open concept. There's not a single door.
And the emotions just flood into every
Everywhere.
area.
So it is really difficult sometimes to try to get someone who, has a male brain, so to speak, to open up and share feelings, because a lot of them, now some are better than others and some are more emotionally in tune. And I think they can work on it. But there are a lot of people who are just like, if you ask them how they feel, they're going to be like, good. And they mean it. They're not lying. They just don't have more nuance than that.
Or suppressing. They're just good and they're fine. And then they just move on.
Or they're like, I'm mad. And that's the feeling. There's sometimes a lack of nuance. And so it's understandable that you might be feeling resentful because you're like, is this what I'm supposed to expect? It's just like, I'm sharing all about how I feel. And I'm getting like, I feel good in response. Like that would feel a little womp womp.
Sure.
I get that.
Yes, I do get that. I'm of two minds here, right? I think partially we can't get all of our needs met from one person and we should not.
I wonder how many other people she has to open up to.
That's how I'm feeling. I'm like, does your husband need to be like your best girlfriend and like therapist/coach and husband and maybe father of your children? Like, that's a lot of things for a person to be. And he might be it's reminding me of a blog I wrote a while back called Stop Going to the Hardware Store for Milk.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't go to some people for certain things. Now, okay, that's one piece of this. You might need some of your more emotional, like delving into your emotional processing. Maybe you need some good friends to do that with. Maybe you need a good coach or a good therapist to talk to some of that stuff with. That might be a really good avenue. He may not be the best person to go to for that sort of thing.
No, I feel like you need less from one person when you're getting your needs met from other people too.
Yes.
Like that's the point here.
And I also understand the desire for depth and deep conversation. And I'm not asking you to give that up.
No.
Give that concept up when it comes to interacting with your husband. But you might have to approach it differently. So instead of saying, hey, here's how I feel about this thing.
Or
how do you feel about that?
Okay, right.
This might be more like, this is going to sound really nuanced and small. You might say, what do you think about this? What is your opinion about this? What's your take on this?
Mm-hmm.
That's now engaging a different part of him. The more
that's bigger than like the closet.
That's bigger than that closet of emotions.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really have that many strong feelings
but
about
I know what
that.
I think about things.
Yes. So that's a very, again, small differences, but it's a way of engaging him in a way that I think might open him up a little bit more.
Yeah. And like, I think that you get to, so I suspect that Rose, if she really cares about this, she might be someone whose primary love language is quality time, and quality conversation is a very important component of quality time, and like getting to share how you're feeling and processing is important. And so I'm assuming that her husband might have a different love language and that he might be like more of an acts of service person. He's not going to talk. He's just going to do, which I think she's kind of acknowledged. He does do things for me.
Mm-hmm.
But quality conversation doesn't have to just be like talking about your feelings. You can talk about your feelings, but if he's it's like getting blood out of a stone, right, to get feelings out of him. Like Kristen said, you don't just have to ask him what he thinks. You could take it to another level and bring up a subject for conversation. Like you could be like, what are you, like instigate a deep conversation when it's appropriate about anything that feels interesting to you. Like, what are your thoughts about like reincarnation or, time? What was Einstein right about that? I mean, anything. Like that's just like that's where I would go if I were asking someone to have a deep conversation. But I think that could be a way to have an interesting, intellectually stimulating, quality conversation without it having to be about his feelings.
Yes. You could even prime it up even more. You could say, hey, I heard about this really interesting documentary, or I just heard this really great podcast. Hey, can we listen to this?
Mm-hmm.
And listen to it and then ask, what do you think about that? Or what's your take on what we just heard? And now that's going to churn up a little bit more interesting conversation than what should we have for dinner? Or did you take the dog out?
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to like have some intellectual foreplay, you should be listening to Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, come on.
Some revisionist history. You can't listen to one of those and then not have like a deep conversation with someone about it afterwards.
Listen and then you listen together and then you just go back to talking about dinner.
Well, I don't know. If you can, you're not any friend of mine.
There you go. So there's your first your first action step is listen to some revisionist history and then talk about it.
Yeah. And again, I understand that might not be fully satisfying to you. That, you know, is that all I can expect? Just to have deep intellectual conversations and he never talks about how he feels? But I'm not sure that like he's going to talk about how he feels because you put him on the spot to talk about how he feels. Mm-hmm. I think you might need to watch for openings where maybe he's like feeling stressed about something. That's a feeling. So you might be like, hey, like, instead of asking him, do you want to talk about that? You could say, like, hey, maybe do you need to like vent for 5 minutes to me about that?
Or you seem a little stressed. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he might not express it in the same way that you would, but he is feeling emotions and you can perceive that and ask if it's appropriate, timing. And also,
or you can call it out in positive ways too. Oh, you seem really happy right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you may be like, yeah, I am actually. Right. Oh, well, why? Like you can like, if you're paying attention, you can prime him. You can say, hey, you can point out when he's having feelings and then he might get more astute at noticing his own feelings because you're pointing them out. Mm-hmm. Now, don't follow him around all day with a clipboard being like, I note that you are happy from 10:20 to 10:48 and then the Patriots lost. And then
you are sad.
And then for the rest of the week, he was sad and then angry and then dejected and cursing Tom Brady ever moving away.
He doesn't need to feel like a science experiment in his own home.
No.
But yeah, occasionally when you are noticing that, you might say, hey, I get the sense that you're feeling this way. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And he might say, yep, I am. Okay, that's fine. But sometimes he might elaborate.
Yeah.
But again, what I'm really sensing here is I think you need some other people who love talking about emotions and want to do that with you on a more regular basis.
I think
you would miss it less from him if you were getting that need met somewhere else.
And that's how it's meant to be. Liz Gilbert, who we talk about every other time we sit down to do an episode, she has a great book called Committed, which I think is super interesting. It's kind of like about the history of marriage and the societal sort of implications and her reckoning with it. She wrote it very shortly after she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And she wrote it about the decision to marry her partner shortly. I mean, it was around 9/11. It was like a couple of years after that. And there were, the immigration stuff really changed and got more strict after that. And so in order to keep her and her partner together, they got married. And neither of them wanted to get married again because they'd both been through such terrible divorces. And so it was her reckoning with what is the point of marriage as an institution. And in that, she talks about how for most of human history, that person didn't have to be your everything. They didn't have to be like your confidant and your best friend and your therapist and like your cheerleader. Like you got those needs met from other people sort of in the community. And now, and like, honestly, in some cultures, it was like your husband was just like an afterthought. It was just like, oh yeah, he just like brings stuff back and like we have kids but like we don't really talk. We don't really.
He's not your social connection. He's more of your economic connection.
Yeah, really. Mm-hmm. And he was just part of a structure, but you and his relationship wasn't all that important. And we don't have to judge that. That can be positive. That can be negative. That can be neutral. But I think it's interesting for context's sake to think about, like, I think that we might have swung way too far on one extreme. That's maybe what she was saying in that book, is that we're putting a lot of pressure on this person to be like the end all be all of getting our needs met. And it's not healthy. And we need to swing back a little bit more to the community way of getting our needs met, which I know opens up a whole different problem of like, well, how do I make friends? I think I work with, I talk to a lot of women and I wish we could just introduce all of them. I think we could figure out a way to do that one day. I know we've been talking about that, but I think that it's not uncommon for Kristen and I to coach people who feel lonely and who feel like, I wish I had more friends that I could have deep conversations with and I could open up to, and they just don't have them.
Especially this year when it feels like we're less connected than ever.
Yeah. But I do think there are opportunities out there for connection. And I want you to know that like people are, if Kristen and I are seeing the insides of a lot of people more often than I think most, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of loneliness. We're seeing a lot of people who are saying, I wish I could have better friends and connections. I want you to assume that other people want that too. It's not just you, and that there might be some opportunity for you if you just like be a little bit vulnerable to make a connection with someone else who's maybe not your husband and who might be able to serve a different purpose in your life. And I want to challenge that you can do that even in COVID times. I was talking to someone, a client of mine last week, and she was like, well, I don't know how to, we were talking about friendship. And she's like, I don't know how to do that because I don't go anywhere and I don't even have a job anymore. And, I'm working in my own business from home and I'm a solopreneur. Like I don't have opportunities to meet other people, but push back on that because she's actually a member of an online course that she joined about her business, like to develop her business. I'm like, is there a group or a forum where people connect? Yes. Why don't you post in there? Why don't you see if some people might be interested in having like a Zoom coffee date with you?
She was like, oh, I never people's posts and engage with what they're talking about.
Oh, I never really thought to do that. I guess you could make friends that way. That was her homework. She's going to go try it. So I think there are opportunities if you look for them. And I know it's work. It's a little bit of work, but hey, anything worth having kind of comes with a little bit of like sweat equity put in.
Yeah. And if it makes your life feel more connected and more balanced, and it also puts less pressure on your marriage to have to fulfill all those needs, it's worth that work.
I think it really is. Yeah. Because nothing is more important than that you not end up resenting your spouse.
Yes.
Resentment is kind of the kiss of death. It's the last stop where we can actually turn it around. Contempt is when it's done.
And also, like, he really sounds like he's trying.
Yeah,
too. I want to give him props for trying to listen without giving advice.
It sounded like you said crops. I pictured you like meeting him with like a bushel of corn, like it's Thanksgiving.
Cornucopia.
I want to give him some crops.
I want to give him props and crops.
Great.
Because I do think he's trying to meet your needs, but there's going to be a limit because he can't be the end all be all.
No.
So,
okay.
Appreciate what he is offering and go other places for some of the other things.
Challenge yourself. You might have to get creative and go outside your comfort zone a little to find opportunities to make connections with people. And that's not a one-time thing. It might be a process. Making a friend doesn't happen necessarily overnight. Not one you can actually open up to about real stuff and have a deep conversation with about how you feel. But, as someone who I never thought was good at making friends and have made a lot of friends over the years and really deep ones at that, I know it's possible. It just takes a little bit of time and effort and consistency. So I like this episode. We went into so many different topics.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
We started out in a dirty ocean and we ended up
in a cornucopia.
Woo! What a journey.
Okay, so that's that. And we will be back on Tuesday.
And that will be the first day of our coaching enrollment period. So look out for a new episode then.
All right. See you then.
Bye.